Good morning, and thank you, Pastor Zeiss, for that introduction, and I'm grateful for all of you who are here this morning. I would like to especially recognize the entire faith community, the faith community that has stepped up from the very beginning to support this mission. I'm joined by the faith community and our philanthropic partners to demonstrate our full force of government approach to address this humanitarian crisis. City government is maintaining our efforts to welcome and resettle asylum seekers here in Chicago, and we are making progress. In partnership with the state, we have successfully helped over 10,000 new arrivals to resettle in the area and reunite with family and friends in various places. And we are currently working with the state to expedite the work authorization process as much as possible so that new arrivals can get jobs and to do it more quickly. But importantly, to become integrated into the life of our city. I'm happy to share that in recent weeks, we have successfully transitioned all of our new arrivals out of half of our police districts into city shelters, and we are preparing them for the next step of their journey. I'd like to take a moment to thank the hundreds of volunteers and mutual aid groups, including the church groups, for their incredible efforts to support asylum seekers at police stations. It has made a difference for thousands of people. This mission continues, but as winter fast approaches, our need for greater collaboration and coordination grows. And that is why we are mobilizing Chicago's faith community and our partners in the philanthropic community to meet this moment. And after extensive conversations and outreach with the faith community and our philanthropic partners, my administration formed a partnership of churches and community organizations around the city of Chicago. I'm excited to announce the Unity Initiative, a multi-layer approach that seeks to bring Chicago together, including an interfaith partnership dedicated to helping us move migrants out of police stations and onto the path of resettlement and self-sufficiency. This is the soul of Chicago that I've been speaking of from my first day in office. A diverse, intergenerational, interracial, interfaith coalition of communities coming together to help those in need. That's who we are, and that's who we will always remain. Chicago's faith community has long nurtured the soul of Chicago. From welcoming over 500,000 Black people to Chicago during the Great Migration, to helping thousands of asylum seekers today, it's been the faith community that has shown its tremendous support for families throughout generations. In the face of divisive forces that continue to desperately work to tear our city apart, we will overcome this humanitarian crisis, and we will do it together. And it will ultimately lead towards a better, stronger, and a safer Chicago. At no cost to the taxpayers of Chicago, thanks to the philanthropic community, the Unity Initiative will prioritize getting pregnant women, children, and all of those sleeping outside of police stations or on the floors into temporary housing as quickly as possible through churches all over the city of Chicago. And there they will have access to case management and assistance finding permanent housing through the work of our philanthropic partners. Our faith community will open their doors doing what they do best, providing food, hold winter clothing drives, connect migrants to supportive services and to the hospitality of community members, and so much more. This is just one of many creative solutions we are finding to address the humanitarian crisis for the people of Chicago. I cannot express how grateful I am My gratitude to the network of partners and faith leaders who are stepping up at this critical time. And thank you for doing your part, living out Chicago's values and taking care of our new neighbors. And thank you for being a shining example to everyone. I hope that everyone follows in this example that our faith community is setting today. Because everyone has something that they can do. Everyone can contribute to this mission. The timing could not be more crucial. We cannot abandon families and asylum seekers and let them go through Chicago's winter alone. I call upon all of our faith institutions and our partners in business, philanthropy, labor, to come together to find solutions to help asylum seekers find self-sufficiency. By empowering our new neighbors to find work, housing, and more in our great city, we're investing in a collective, brighter future. I'm grateful that the Alderman of the 6th Ward, Alderman Will Hall, is with me today. And thank you everyone who has already stepped up supporting this mission. In this moment, you're bringing people hope.
Chicagoans, the needs of Chicagoans to be sacrificed for the needs of people who want to become Chicagoans. Help me understand what you mean by you said that. When does somebody, in your estimation, become a Chicagoan?
Yeah, thank you for that question. First, let me just acknowledge I'm grateful that Reverend Jackson has found his way to the west side of Chicago. Thank you, Reverend, for being here today in grand fashion. You know, I've said repeatedly, and I've mentioned this when I was running for mayor, that no one should lose at the expense of someone else winning. My message has been pretty consistent. There are families who live in Chicago who have, particularly black and brown folks, who have experienced austere budgets, school closures, mental health closures, public housing shutting down, jobs being lost. And for many of these families, they recognize that they have a leader in me that's going to invest in people, because that's what I promised that I would do. And too often, we have a zero-sum operation where the wishes and desires of people are sacrificed or given to someone that quite frankly doesn't have the same motivation, right? And so too many budgets before where black and brown folks were sacrificed to benefit corporations and austere budgets. And what I've simply said is this: those who live in Chicago and those who who've had the benefit of living in Chicago, that I am still committed to investing in those families. And those wish to call Chicago their home, we're committed to investing in them. My message has been clear and consistent.
I had a follow-up. I'm sorry. And can you talk about why beginning construction on the base camp in Brighton Park before we've seen the environmental report about what sort of any potential contamination or threat could be posed? Why do it that way?
Well, this is the way we've been doing it. You know, I haven't veered off from my mission. Look, the international crisis that I inherited 6 months ago, I've made it very clear that we are going to make sure that we remove people out of police districts, women and children who are living on floors and sleeping outside, that we're going to create spaces that provide more dignity. As we have assessed throughout this entire process, we have continued to build along that assessment. And so for every assessment, for every test that we put forth, it sets us up to take the next step. Now you're going to have a full report of this national guideline for environment. You'll have that by the end of the week.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
What would you want to see from the border deal that's being discussed in Congress? And would you want some limits placed on the flow of migrants from other cities and states?
Well, it has to be better coordination. You know, what we've seen is a very raggedy form instituted by right-wing extremism. Everyone knows that the right-wing extremism in this country has targeted democratically ran cities. And quite frankly, they've been very intentional about going after democratically ran cities that are led by people of color. And their whole motivation is to create disruption and chaos, because that's what that particular party has been about. Right? This is the same political party that did not want to accept that President Obama was actually an American. It's the same Republican right-wing extremism that stormed the Capitol. It's the same right-wing extremism that refuses to accept the results of the Civil War. It's raggedy, it's disrespectful, it's mean-spirited, it's an unclean spirit, quite frankly. And so I got you. I just want to make sure that people understand what we're facing. That's why it's so important that the faith community is leaning in this moment. And so what I've said, there has to be better coordination. Look, Pastor Will Hall, who's also an alderman of the 6th Ward, visited the border. He saw the chaos firsthand. And so part of our effort to go to the border was to make sure that there was better coordination with the flow of migrants who are seeking asylum here. And this is not unprecedented. When the Ukrainian refugees found their way to the shores of America, there were 30,000 of them right here in the city of Chicago, and you don't hear a word about it because it was coordinated. There was federal dollars that were attached to those families. And so, to your question, yes, it has to be better coordinated. As far as limitations, we have to have parameters that respect the dignity of families who want to call Chicago their home. It is abysmal, and it's an affront for everything that is good about this country, for the extremism in this country to use people as political tools to settle political scores for something that happened 400 years ago. They're still mad that a black man is free in this country. This is nothing new, but aren't you glad that the soul of Chicago won't be broken? And those are the words of, I think, Beyonce, you won't break our soul. Thank you. Pastor Zayas.
So we're starting off with 17 churches, first phase, and the goal is as we increase to the demands of the city to alleviate the stress at O'Hare and some of the police stations, we actually want to start tomorrow. We want to send the buses and start picking up folks. The time is now. And so our goal is to send the bus, and we're going to start picking up folks and establishing them in the churches that are behind you. All these pastors have committed to start the process. So boots on the ground starting tomorrow, and we're going to start filling them up, and we're going to work together to make sure that my goal and our goal by December 1st, we are making a huge impact in the city, with working along the city to relieve the stress of folks in the police stations and O'Hare. So we're starting first thing tomorrow morning. Yeah.
And, sorry, one more follow-up for you, Mayor Johnson. In New York, they tried this program, but it had a lot of problems with churches not being up to code. How are you going to make sure that doesn't happen in Chicago?
Well, the full force of government is on display. I've said this from the very beginning, that that is my mission to bring people together. And that's the state government, that's the county government, and that includes our faith community. But here's the good news. The faith community has been doing this work, right, from the very beginning. And so that we're investing in an infrastructure that, quite frankly, just needed a little bit more formation. I just want to make sure that people understand that this is an international crisis. Speaking of New York, do you know that 70% of the migrants and the asylum seekers in New York come from the continent of Africa? This is a global population shift that's being promulgated by failed policy. Now, as Pastor Zayas has indicated, 100 years from now, people are going to read about what we did in this moment. And what they're going to read about the city of Chicago, that the soul and the essence of who we are, we did not allow that extremism to break us. The full force of government is on display. Federal government, state government, county government, city government, the faith community, philanthropic community, mutual aid volunteers, and we did it in 6 months. Thank you. This is 3 questions now. Go ahead. We're going to be nice to you today because there are preachers here.
Why did this program happen sooner? A lot of these pastors have been...
As I've said, they've been doing it. It's taken, they didn't just start with this press conference. I hear what you're saying, but I just want to make sure that you write this. They didn't just start today. They've been doing it. And so what you're seeing is a sophisticated coordination that has taken some time to make sure that we level set. Because here's the thing, the resources that the state is showing up with, because that's the collaboration that I've called for and they're doing it, The resources that the county has invested in, we've called for that type of collaboration. I'm grateful for both of our executives at the county level and at the state level for being a part of this ongoing mission, that our faith community needed to make sure that there was a complete alignment with what our ultimate mission and goal has been. Now, they didn't start this yesterday, they're not starting it tomorrow, but now what you're seeing is a full display of what collaboration looks like. That's what I promised I would do as mayor, and that's what I'm doing. I'm well, thank you for asking. I did, it was perfect.
So when you've got a certain amount of money that's pledged by the philanthropic committee, and is the money from those donations going to be helping the churches do what they're signing up?
Yes, yes.
How much, is there an amount of money that's come in already?
Yeah, so right now we're at $350,000. So that's what's been committed. We also have others that are stepping up to the plate. We're seeing a move in that direction. And so we are right now at this point, as of today, $350,000. We're looking to probably do $1 million by the end, by January. Yeah.
And Pastor, maybe the other one of this, or maybe the mayor can speak to it, is this unity effort, is this kind of a short-term effort just to get the city through the winter months, or is there kind of a longer-term effort that's going to be coordinated to help?
So just to give clarity, the church never stops.
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah, so
particular unity effort that we're talking about.
it's always been. We've been doing it for 1.5 years since the migrants come in August of 2022. So we're just increasing our efforts. We're just adding more churches involved in the coalition to be able to house more migrants. And so we see it as long as the crisis is there, we're there. As long as the need is there, the mayor just makes a phone call, we're there. So it ends when they stop sending folks across the border or towards the city of Chicago without any compassion, because we will rely on compassion to serve those who are before us. So we'll continue 6 months, a year, whatever it takes to get this done.
Mayor, can you say what specific contaminants were found in the Wright Park site?
This assessment is ongoing. That full report will be provided by the end of the week.
Do you not know at this point? Is it still?
The full report will be provided by the end of the week. If you can just hold off to the end of the week, you'll see it all there.
Well, I think that sort of dovetailing off Heather's question, why go in this step? Because to be honest, sir, that is part of the criticism that your administration has faced is issues with transparency that the alders have raised, that citizens have raised.
We have been complete. I hear your question. We have been completely transparent. You've asked about why are we still moving forward? Because that's the process that we've been administering from the very beginning. The community partners know exactly what's happening. The alders know exactly what's happening. And as we've assessed, we've continued to move forward throughout this entire assessment. Nothing has changed. And once that full report is available by the end of the week, everyone will have access to it. There is no information that is available that you do not have.
But if you move forward with building the site out and people don't know what contaminants are there, isn't that an issue? Isn't that a problem? Don't people living there deserve to know what's there?
The assessment that is ongoing will be provided for you by the end of the week. And as we've been doing at all of our sites, we've assessed and we have looked for any contaminants and all of the remediation that's necessary to eliminate the contaminants. That's very much a part of my overall agenda. Like, here's the real dynamic. The environmental errors that have been ongoing in this city for generations now is something that I get to address, and I'm happy to do it. So I consider this is further proof that I'm committed to environmental justice, because absent any assessment on any property, these residents who have been there have not known until we've actually put in the work. We call that leadership. And you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Alice?
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Do these 17 churches have the capacity to get the remaining 1,200 arrivals? Currently, CBC is in O'Hare out, and would it happen as soon as this week? And if not, when would?
Yeah, so it's always been the goal of my administration to remove people out of police stations and districts. If you recall, about 3 weeks ago, I believe there were about 3,900 people in police stations. We're down to about a little bit over 1,000. There were almost 600 at O'Hare Airport. I believe we're down to 100. We've been working with expediency throughout this entire mission. I've stood up a shelter about every single week. And here's something that I think is important to note. At least I think it's important to note. Do you know when I was sworn in May that the previous city council did not budget for 2023's migrant mission? So not only have we stood up an operation, the full force of government in a collaborative way, we did it without the previous city council even providing resources for it. Now, it's an international crisis that I inherited. And so the work, of course, is ongoing. Winter's coming fast, and that is why, whether it's base camps, brick and mortar, demanding that the federal government do more, the faith community is doing its part and then some. Our ultimate goal is to get people off of floors, those who are sleeping outside, to get them indoors, and we're doing all that while making sure we're investing in people who have already been here. That's why there's $250 million that I've committed to the unhoused. We have, for the first time in the history of Chicago, a dedicated person to deal with the unhoused, the chief homeless officer. Of course, we continue to invest in violence prevention. We're opening up mental health clinics. We passed treatment, not trauma. We have brought Chicago home. We got paid time off. We've eliminated sub-minimum wage. We set up a commission for restoration and reparations. We've set up an entire department around reentry, and we've done all that in 6 months. And I'm not tired. Yes. This is your follow-up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ultimately, where's the hat? There's an issue with garden world, with environmental issues. Is it the city or the state?
We're collaborating. We're working together. And look, I understand that there's been a history of some of these delineations within levels of government, not under my leadership. This is a sanctuary state. It's a sanctuary county. It's a sanctuary city. We have a long history of sanctuary in this city. A Black Haitian and an indigenous woman. I think it's actually quite fascinating that a Black Haitian and an indigenous woman were part of the settlement of the soul of who we are. And now we have a whole Black first family on the 5th floor of the city of Chicago. We're doing just fine. We're working together collaboratively. Thank you.